Well, Yogi, all good things must come to an end. This is the season finale of the Happy Hour presented by Dr. Pepper. He's Yogi Roth. I'm Ashley Adamson. All right, we got a lot to talk about. We got a Pac-12 championship to talk about. We've got a lot more coaching news to discuss, but let's start with, I guess, the most timely news of the day, which is the year-end award winners. Yogi, drum roll, please. Thank you. In case you missed it, here you go. Take a look. Offensive Player of the Year for the Pac-12 is USC's Drake London. Freshman Offensive Player of the Year is Washington State's JAYDEN. And then Utah cleans up the other three. As we expected, DEVIN LLOYD wins the Pac-12 Tillman Defensive Player of the Year award. We'll talk about that. Junior TAFUNA named Freshman Defensive Player of the Year. And for the second time in his career, Kyle Whittingham is your Pac-12 Coach of the Year. So a lot to digest there. I think there were a lot of people, maybe when you look at the Offensive Player of the Year, Yogi, who thought Cam Rising or maybe even Tavion Thomas would win. But the coaches agree, and it's the coaches who vote, that Drake London, even though he only played 8 games, missed the final third of the season, he was good enough to say, yeah, he's the guy. He was the best player in the league this year.
Tremendously dominant every single time he took the field. And I think that if you go back and watch any team that he played against, I remember calling the Colorado game, and they knew, the whole stadium knew he was going to get the rock, and they couldn't do anything about it. Double coverage, triple coverage, in space, one-handed. I mean, every single time he showed out on the field when he was healthy, he was easily the best player. And I love that the coaches went this way, because that was the reality. I think the other players that you referenced, and I'm sure a lot of people got votes, they had their moments. But when the coaches walk into a staff room, and I've been in staff rooms where this happens, head coach says, all right, who gave us the biggest problem offensively? And he turns to the defensive staff and they hammer it out. And I'd imagine that even the Pac-12 coaches that didn't face Drake London, they still saw crossover film and were like, wow, thank God we don't have to face Drake London. And I think his season in context is really special. He gave up basketball to solely focus on football in the spring. You saw him go from the slot to outside. You saw him carry this team. And it's unfortunate that he got hurt, because I think it's a runaway in the Blitnikoff. I mean, this is a guy who almost has more catches than any of the finalists. He does have more than one of the finalists, and he only played in the games that you referenced. So his season will go down in history. And I think when you look at USC receivers and the storied players that have played that position, Drake London easily and deservingly is on that list.
Yeah, well said. He was the first Trojan to win Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year since Marquise Lee did it back in 2012. And that was also the last time a wide receiver won this award. A former wide receiver who is now just terrorizing offenses as a linebacker is DEVIN LLOYD. And I think this was an interesting one because, I think you look at maybe from the outside standpoint coming into the season, everyone figured it's Kayvon Thibodeau's award to lose. And he is phenomenal and affects the game in so many ways. But as the season kind of went on, and we, talk to coaches every single week, it's not surprising, certainly to us, that DEVIN LLOYD was the pick, because, man, he was special, and obviously the football championship game MVP for a reason.
Well, look at how they eliminated teams' greatest strengths, right? You look at Oregon in their run game, absolutely eliminated it twice. You look at how he's done so many things. Go to the Arizona State game, Ash. He's spying Jane Daniels and making plays against them, doing the same thing to running backs, obviously leading a defense, lining up all over the field. And I just think when you look at a guy like him at the center of that defense, he had the it factor, right? Which is when he walked into the locker room, people felt his presence, but then he made everyone around him better. And that's their defense. They start off the season 1-2, a young defense. They didn't get the full allotment of games last year to give guys experience. But this is a young man that had a chance to go to the NFL, that he said came back to, quote, win multiple rings. Well, he got one. Now he's got a sweet award, and we'll see if he can get a Rose Bowl ring on New Year's Day leading this defense. But to me, the most complete player in the league. A lot of talent in this league on defense, more so than in years past in terms of dominant defensive performances and people that offenses have to account for. But DEVIN LLOYD, the most consistent and impactful all season long.
And then you look at, obviously, for the Freshman of the Year honors, Junior TAFUNA is the first Utah player to win Defensive Freshman of the Year. And then JAYDEN, the quarterback at Washington State, who did some magical things this year, he wins the Freshman of the Year, which I guess he sort of was a freshman last year, but I guess with eligibility, all things are a little bit different in 2021. Your reaction to any of the other awards, including Kyle Whittingham, deservedly so, being named Coach of the Year?
Well, I think for JAYDEN we'll start there. Obviously not like a traditional freshman as a starter his first year on campus there, but that season for the Cougs could have gone sideways, right? The coaches that recruited him were no longer there. And everyone I've talked to said that it was JAYDEN in the team meeting that talked to the rest of his teammates and said, hey, let's go do this thing. Let's define what Cougar pride is on the field. And you saw them do that. I mean, what a run that led to Jake Dickert becoming the head coach. He's going to build this offense around him next year. And to me, if I had to pick a quarterback in this league and you said, hey, go play in the backyard, who's the one guy you want in your squad? I'm taking him, right? No matter his size or stature, the dude can deal. And he's done it since he showed up on campus fearlessly. He went through his own issues in the offseason. Remember, he was away from the team for a while. And then he came back, he dealt with it, and became a legit leader for a program. I have huge expectations for JAYDEN and this Cougar offense next season.
Okay, and then let's put a cap on what we saw in Vegas on Friday. It already feels like a lifetime ago, but that was one of the most special championship environments I've certainly been in. The buzz, shout out to the Utah fans. You guys freaking brought it. It was amazing. It was a sea of red. I'd say it was about 80% Utah fans, and they were rolling. Your thoughts as we've now had a little bit of time to digest what we saw at Allegiant Stadium on Friday, Yogs?
Well, the first thought I have is Kyle Whittingham, right? Of course, the coach of the year. I think he should be the national coach of the year. And how he guided this team and galvanized the fan base. I mean, we felt that stadium, right? It was incredible. Utah fans brought their energy, their enthusiasm, and of course, the love for their program for all 4 quarters. And they've been doing it for a long time in Salt Lake City. And they did it all season long this year. Of course, last year, not being allowed to go to games. And I just think of what Kyle has done, right? In terms of all the challenging things that his team has dealt with. You've covered them as well as anybody. Losing 2 teammates, 2 young men that he recruited and developed, and then having to steer the ship, changing a quarterback position, right? At the leadership position on offense, even on offensive line, and just managing it and being constant. So I think of that. And what do we see from Utah? Consistency all season long. Sans the Oregon State game, which I think their defensive front grew up a ton in, this team has been dramatically consistent. And why? Because they reflect the leadership of their head coach. Put it on Oregon 2 times, almost identical styles in which they beat up on the Oregon Ducks 13 days prior to the championship game, and they did it again under all the bright lights. So I reflect on that. That's the thing that I'm going to remember a lot, and then just the energy and the juice from the fans in the stands.
So you feeling good about their chances against the Ohio State Buckeyes on New Year's Day in Pasadena, Yokes?
Well, it's going to be one of the most enjoyable bowl games, I think, out there. I mean, we've got a nice slate, of course, when you head into the bowl season, but this is awesome, right? Ohio State, they've been a staple in Pasadena. We've been there. We were there when Urban Meyer was there in his final game before Ryan Day took over. And now we're here for Kyle Whittingham. And I think about when Kyle Whittingham took over for Urban Meyer. And now you got a great stage, a team that has ascended and grown into a Power 5 powerhouse, which is Utah, and a team that's always been there. So I think both teams are going to have a statement to make. And I think for Utah, you go win this game on this stage, at this stadium, against this storied opponent, you're going to be top 5 at the end of the season. And you're going to be top 5 heading into the season with a game in Gainesville against Florida to kick it off with a lot of players returning. Like Utah football, they've seen a lot of cool things. They've never seen this, and they're deserving of that opportunity. And I think they've got every chance to go win this game and make a ton of noise in major college football.
It's going to be special, and it's already been, no matter what happens at the Rose Bowl on January 1, it is already going to be a season that none of these fans, and I know all of us at the Pac-12 are never going to forget. Well, there's more coaching news, and you and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but Mario Cristobal headed back to his alma mater to go head coach at Miami. We heard from Rob Mullins in the time since we last talked. So your thoughts moving forward, and what, I know you've been talking to Rob, and what you think Oregon is looking for in their next head coach, where they might go. And obviously we should update everyone. Brian McClendon, the wide receiver coach, is going to be the interim head coach for the bowl game when they take on Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. So your thoughts on where we are right now with the search in Eugene, Yokes?
Well, I think that Rob Mullins is the perfect guy to lead the charge. Number one, he's done it before. Unfortunately, as Duck fans know, he did it when Mark Helfrich was let go. He did it when Willie Taggart left, and now he's got to do it again. But you saw it in his press conference yesterday. I mean, he's managing this thing and putting the student athletes and the players first. They hired the perfect guy to be the interim head coach because they have a huge game, right? We know the record of teams that lose in the Pac-12 championship game. You don't have success in your bowl game. So they need to dial in on this. I mean, this is a big moment when they go up against Oklahoma and Bob Stoops, and they've got a new head coach. So I think that's priority number one. And to the players, go compete your tails off in this game. I mean, this is an awesome stage. There's so much happening now with you lost your coach who recruited you. There's a lot of emotions involved. Deal with it. Take this week to take a deep breath and then lock in. Stay away from the portal. Stay away from your DMs because you're building something special, right? Coach Cristobal said it when he left. This thing is built for success, and it is, Ash. 3 straight top 10 classes. So where do they go? I think they have a lot of unique opportunities. They can take a big swing, somebody outside the Pac-12 footprint, or they could stay within it. People that have played at Oregon, have coached at Oregon, that understand what the Pac-12 is, that don't have a dream job in the state of Florida or in the Midwest or another part of the country. So I'm curious because we're in a unique stage in college football where coaches are staying for 5 to 7 years. So doesn't matter. And go get somebody that's outside of your footprint. I kind of net out to say, go get somebody who understands Oregon, and understands the Pac to a degree, and will assemble a staff that will bring the same aggressiveness recruiting wise that the previous staff had. Because that is where they created some separation in this league. That is why they went to 3 straight Pac-12 championship games. So I'm excited. It's a premier job. Think about it. Think about every other job in the country. There isn't one where you can call Phil Knight, where you can say, hey, this is something that we might need. This is going to better our student athlete experience. And that's what Rob Mullins and the future head coach has. So I am fired up for where they're going. We'll see when it happens. I don't think it's a dramatic rush. I get that we have signing day, but we're in a world now where kids can sign and leave anyway. So get it right for the sake of getting it perfect and then move forward.
It is the end of an era, it feels like, in Eugene. And you mentioned all the things that Mario was able to do. You talk about leaving a program in a better place than how you found it. Kayvon Thibodeau not playing in the bowl game, I think understandable given the changes, but to think that we're not going to see Mario Cristobal wearing that Oregon Duck green and that Kayvon has played his last game as a Duck. He didn't win Defensive Player of the Year, but all he has meant to both that program, that fan base, and just the bigger picture of, NIL. And there was just so much that I felt like Kayvon sort of brought to the forefront and stood for in his 3 years at Oregon.
He's really the face of that program, right? And if you think about college football, I've always felt this, that college football is known for its head coach for the most part. NFL is known for its quarterbacks for the most part. Oregon's known for is known for its brand. But when Kayvon Thibodeau spurred a bunch of huge schools a couple of years ago and decided to come to Oregon, he became the face of that team. And now to your point with NIL and everything he did, whether it was with an airline or a partnership, he did it with such class, or an NFT. He talked to us at Media Days about it. He did it with great purpose, right? He was about ball, books, and his future. And I just think that for huge recruits, sometimes they could be given a stigma of he's a 5-star guy. Well, everything that his staff said about him, and I believe to be true, is he was a 5-star practice player. He was a 5-star teammate. He was a 5-star in the classroom. He did all things right, and I think created an incredible blueprint for high-profile recruits to come into a school like Oregon with a plan to get a degree, excel in the classroom, chase a passion. For him, it's media and storytelling, and also become a top 5 draft pick. I mean, he did all those things, and it wasn't sloppy. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to Rob Mullins and whole athletic department to providing the structure for somebody like Kayvon, who left LA, spurred LA schools to go up north, a part of the Cali flock at the time. And I think he set that thing in motion where they're going to continue. And they have, right? It was Noah Sewell, it was Justin Flo. They've continued to find big time prospects and beat other huge schools for them. I don't think that element slows down. And I think Kayvon has an impact, maybe not as big as Marcus Mariota, but in the conversation because of the era that we're in college football and him being a defensive player.
I think that is all beautifully said, Yogi. And I think, Rob Mullins had said yesterday that when Mario addressed the team, he told everyone, he said, hey, you committed to Oregon. and you chose Oregon, stay on the path that you were on. You have everything that you need here to fulfill your goals and your dreams and be successful. So I thought that was a cool anecdote that Rob Mullins passed along from Mario's last meeting with the team. All right, we are just about out of time, but just your thoughts on what's ahead, because now we head into bowl season and signing day, as you mentioned, is right around the corner. So I know you'll be getting your Google Docs in order and dialed in. But what's, your thoughts on the next couple of months, and is in terms of looking back on what we just went through in 2021 in the regular season?
Well, I think we all came into this season and said, well, nothing will be as crazy as 2020 and what everybody dealt with, from a football standpoint. Of course, the world will never be anything like that, we hope. But I look at what's going on in football now and I say, man, 2021 and the drama in college football heading into 2022, there's nothing like it. It's the first recruiting cycle with NIL. The portal and athletes being able to leave a school and be immediately eligible is about to happen. Schools and managing their classes is dramatically different across the board. Some schools, like Arizona State, they're going to go heavy on the transfer portal. Other schools, like Arizona in the same state, are going to go heavy on high school prospects. So there's no right or wrong way to do it, Ash. But man, is it exciting to do. And my eyes are about to be bloodshot over the next 4 or 5 days, because all I'm going to be doing is watching high school film and or portal film to get ready for our signing day show next Wednesday, the 15th. I can't wait. Simulcast on Pac-12 networks and Sirius XM, where we go hard and interview as many coaches that we possibly can and talk about the storylines, because it does feel a little bit like the NFL now, where we used to always say it was 365, 24/7, but now with these two new elements that are full blown rolling, and then some coaching searches, this thing's never going to stop, and I can't be happier.
And you're never going to stop. So maybe get some sleep like in the next couple of days, because I know you'll be rolling. Nobody does it better and nobody cares more. Appreciate you, Yogi. Congratulations to all of the year-end Pac-12 award winners. Well-deserved. Awesome. Shout out to all of you. Enjoy signing day, and we'll be in touch before the Rose Bowl. You're not rid of me yet.
I would hope so. Come on.